Hey everyone, I'm Dragonair Jordan, a competitive Pokemon player, pretty relatively new to the scene. I'm coming off of a top 32 placement at Toronto Regionals and a second place at the closest mid-season showdown. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you all for your support. I'm really looking forward to improving and growing with you as a player in 2024, and let's get started. Today we're looking at something I think has been pretty overlooked in Scarlet and Violet team building, type resist berries in combination with Tera. Tera is supposed to be pretty flexible, so unlike the usual focus on offense or defense, type resist berries give you a nice alternative, especially with combined with Tera Blast, which gives you a move of the same typing when you're team building. This allows some mons like Incineroar to have no effective weaknesses during a turn, giving you an edge and potentially add substantial bulk to the format that people aren't prepared for. If you're unfamiliar with how these berries function, they reduce the super effective damage of a move by 50% one time, effectively making the attack neutral at the cost of an item slot. Most of the time this is niche and not worth sacrificing an item for, but with the rising strength of offensive moves going into the 120, 130 base power range, especially with the introduction of new Pokemon in the DLC with massive special attack and attack stats, I'm going to show you how you can use them both offensively and defensively. So let's break down a couple examples. Okay, so first off is Incineroar. This mon has a amazing offensive and defensive typing with resistances to fire, grass, ice, psychic, ghost, dark, and steel. It does come with some pretty common weaknesses to common attacking types such as water, fighting, ground, and rock, but with the poison Tera you're able to become neutral to those water and rock moves and then resist those fighting moves, and along with Shucker Berry, become neutral for a turn into the ground moves. The importance of this is that you can now parting shot away against mons like Lando Eye, and this gives you a lot more leeway to both switch into attacks when you need to and change your typing while still fitting the role of a grass resist on your team, as well as now a fairy resist, which your fire type is usually supposed to serve, and just better support your teammates given the situation, as well as getting rid of a lot of your common weaknesses. I can see this being used on some teams that have, like I said, a lot of ground weaknesses. Raging Bolt is common next to Incineroar with Helping Hand, like a Shucker Berry Tera Poison set better supports that against both Fluttermane and opposing Lando Eye, which are some of the most common mons in this format right now. If you're already receiving grassy terrain healing from Rillaboom, then you don't really need a citrus berry, and along with, I think Shucker Berry, Tera Poison, and Incineroar is a great partner to Ogerpon, because your Lando Eye matchup with Ogerpon isn't really the best unless you're Jolly Max Speed Ogerpon, and even then you're trading damage. So yeah, it's just worth noting some of the partners for this mon. Next up is Raging Bolt. I see this having some success in some of the more restricted formats later on in Scarlet and Violet, but when it's easier to set up Sun, with Photosynthesis and the Sun, plus 100 base power Weather Ball that turns into fire typing in the Sun, you're OHKOing the standard Regulation E Amoongus build, and without even Tera Fire, just with the special attack and the Weather Ball. But with max special attack, Tera Fire, Photosynthesis, and Sun, you're OHKOing the max HP for Fluttermane build, which is completely insane. I don't know how that calc is true, but like, your Raging Bolt effectively turns into your Fluttermane check, and also with Shucker Berry, your Groudon check. Weather Ball in Sun with the Photosynthesis boost and Tera Fire OHKOs max HP Groudon. So I could see this mon being amazing in restricted formats. It already has a very good matchup into Kyogre and would do so on your own Groudon team, but now it also checks opposing Groudon and opposing Fluttermane. Fluttermane is a problem because it both abuses your own Sun and can hit you back with Photosynthesis boosted special attack, Moonblast, Dazzling Gleams, speed boosted Icy Winds, and just be really disruptive. So having this mon that can both priority check these mons with a special attack boost and OHKO most of them with a Tera Fire Weather Ball, that's amazing. As well, you take advantage, it's worth noting, you take advantage of Weather Ball in Rain and are able to use a Water move, which is amazing coverage along with your Electric and Dragon, existing Electric and Dragon coverage, which Electric and Fire are only resisted by some Dragon types, and now you hit all of them. So, only thing left to note are the weaknesses. Tera Steel would be the perfect defensive type with Shuca Berry, resisting your Ice Dragon and Fairy weaknesses, and then you take neutral because of Shuca. But because this is an offensive build and we're trying to Oko things, you're better off keeping the neutrality to Dragon attacks with Tera. And here comes the teammates support along with this. Because on a Groudon team you typically have your own Flutter Mane, you don't really have to worry about Dragon types. So I think this thing is going to be amazing in restricted formats. I could see Assault Vest also working, but here we're talking about the Tera Fire Shuca Berry build because it just does well into Groudon, it does well into Flutter Mane, it does well into Kyogre. Those are going to be some of the top 3 mons in the next format, so really looking forward to that. The next one is my favorite and probably why you're here, Brute Bonnet. This has been my favorite set to use. In the case of Tera plus Resist Berry, I think it's one of the best. I was able to reach top 300 on the Showdown Regulation F ladder with this yesterday, and I've been using it on Walking Wig Sun teams as my Psy Spam matchup. It's amazing. Psy Spam teams are typically preparing for Incin, so you have the Tera Water, Iron Crown to hit Incin. They're running Focus Blast, which you also live, and with this set specifically, you get a special defense boost in Sun. I believe Photosynthesis gives you a 30% boost to your defenses, and then the normal 1.5 times boost in speed. So this Photosynthesis set gives you a special defense boost. With the +4 build, you survive Urshifu Close Combat from the bulky Adamant variants, so that's really nice. And this thing is really offensive naturally, and Oko's non-bulky Flutter Mane with Bullet Seed straight up. So you're able to Spore Flutter Mane, Synthesis back up, and just help your teammates by continuing to Spore things, continuing to Rage Powder things away. And it's really like a defensive cornerstone of Sun teams, and specifically the Sun team that I made. I don't think it's going to be universally good. I don't think it's going to replace Amoongus. I think like this is a really niche thing for this team that it works well. Sorry about my voice, by the way. I'm just getting over feeling not too well, so I apologize for that. Ice and Fairy are the only types that you retain as weaknesses with your new Dragon Tera, which you take neutral from with Roselia Berry. The only thing you have left is Tera Ice, is Ice types, which you overwhelmingly check with Sun. Like Sun teams have so many Fire type moves. You can run a Fire type move on Flutter Mane, which is your Fast Sweeper. You can run Fire type move on Walking Wake, and it actually typically runs Tera Fire, so you get a boost on your Flamethrower. So Ice types are not staying in for too long, and they don't do too well offensively into your team either. I played a bunch of matches, and the games were like, some games were like single-handedly won by this thing. Its support moves and damage are just really great. I'll speak a little bit more about that at the end of the video, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. This next one is more of a retroactive look at Heatran from the previous regulations, D&E. Those were pretty dominated by Iron Hands. And most Heatran would defensively tear into either Fairy if they had Substitute, so that they would be still immune to Spore, and like be able to get a Substitute up on a Drain Punch, and potentially live it, and keep the Substitute up. And then Grass Tera, so that they would be able to resist Earth Power and get rid of their glaring Water and Ground weaknesses. So this was good, but it was often very easily exploited, both by Flying Mons, with given Heatran's grass typing, and the steel mons like Golden Goat and opposing Heatran if you were tearing into Fairy. And so I think like a good middle ground to this that we didn't find yet, and maybe would have found if the format developed, was the Shuca Berry Tera Poison set. So it's the same kind of idea as Incineroar, where we give ourselves no weaknesses for that first turn. It's more easy to click a Psychic Predict into Heatran predicting the Tera because it's not immune to it, like Incineroar was, but it's still worth noting. You retain your role as a Grass and Fairy resist, something that Incineroar also like to do with the Tera Poison set, and then it allows Heatran to become less pressured to being weak to like Golden Go, opposing Iron Hands, and with Shuca Berry, Landorus, because you do now become neutral to ground with the Shuca Berry for the first turn. So I could see this being run on a 3-attack set with Rillaboom or a substitute set with Rillaboom. I think Rillaboom is the thing of note because you just want to be able to heal up your Heatran. And also you take reduced damage from Earthquake, which isn't such a big thing in this format, but is worth noting because it probably messes up with your calcs with Stopping Tantrum. Next up is Iron Bundle. This is the first example of an offensive and defensive case for the Tera plus Berry combination. This set should be paired with like Helping Hand, or potentially like you could put it on a double water team with Urshifu Rapid Strike, just because it gives you good speed control as well as gives you a new offensive type that you don't have existing on the team. You can further abuse Bundle's role as a disruptor Pokemon just by, you already do well into Fire, Water, Grass cores with your Freeze Dry, plus typically Hydro Pump into Fire types coverage, but now with Ice Ground you also disturb the Dragon Fairy Steel cores, you hit Steel for super effective, and you hit Dragons for super effective. So that's really nice. This mod has super high defense, so with the Rindo Berry you're just able to take any Grassy Glide. Wood Hammer is a 20% chance to Oko, I believe, with the Rindo Berry, so if they're max attack Adam and Assault Vest. So otherwise you still have Intimidate support and other partners to help your bundle out. It would be typically losing to Woodhammer Rillaboom in the first place, so you still have to support it the same way, but this just gives you some more offensive coverage. And 20% chance to Oko is not bad. If you're clicking Hydro Pump as a bundle player, you're already used to 20% chances and covering for those, so especially with Tera Blast Ground 2-hit KOing Incineroar, even through Shuca Berry, like you don't have to worry about missing your Hydro Pump anymore. You do have to account for Tera, but that's kind of a benefit to you. By tearing into ground type, you're immune to electric, which is notable now because we have Raging Bolt in the format. You resist rock, and with the Rindo Berry, you now take neutral damage to grass moves. Along with this ground weakness, so ground has weaknesses to water and ice, which are now mitigated by your resistance and quad resistance with your original typing. So you effectively again have no weaknesses for a turn. This can be predicted, or you can be doubled. Iron Bundle isn't the most bulky Pokemon, but I think the offensive coverage of ground and ice are just good enough that this set has an excuse to be run. And last up is Amoongus. This one's probably the most straightforward and applicable to the metagame. This might help you in team building. All of these ideas are just to give you a little bit more flexibility in how you approach tearing and bulking out your Pokemon. Especially if you're restricted by items. Like, we have a lot of good items in this game, but sometimes 6 items are hard to fill out for your team, and giving a berry maybe frees up a Safety Goggles Citrus Berry for one of your more supportive pieces. So Amoongus gives, with Tera Dragon, gives you a lot of options. Tera Dragon Amoongus has already been picking up popularity because of its neutrality to Tornadus Urshifu. Amoongus does really well into that with the Grass Poison typing. It resists close combat and Surging Strikes from Urshifu. But with the Dragon type, you now are neutral to Bleak Windstorm, so you can live both attacks even more easily, and retaliate with either Spore or just Rage Powder away for your partners. This comes with a glaring weakness to Ice though, and Fairy. So as well as opposing dragons, but that's easier to manage. Amoongus kind of enjoys these weaknesses because of the partners that it typically runs aside with. and allowing your ice type weakness to stick along with Yachi Berry, you were able to counter Entei Chien-Pao's teams. Sacred Fire and Ice Spinner or Icicle Crash are going to be the strongest moves into you. With Yachi Berry plus Terra Dragon, now you can force your Amoongus into that matchup, and it actually does pretty well if it's physically defensive. You can switch it out for Regenerator, which often Chien-Pao Entei teams are concerned with damage sticking on the opposing Pokemon, and just either OHKOing or getting enough damage to stick that their cleaners can come up in the late game. And so Yachi Berry Amoongus really slows down the pace of the game, especially if you can get a Spore off, which is not too hard to do with this build. Terra Water does a similar thing, however, with Raging Bolt usually coming on those teams with Chien-Pao and Entei now, there's less of a case to be made for Terra Water Amoongus, unless you're expecting them to be the Calm mindset, but that's not the easiest thing to cover for, especially with some of the top teams with Chien-Pao, Entei being safety goggles or booster special attack. So in their attempts to KO you with Draco and Dragon Pulse, their Dragon Pulse doesn't KO you first of all, and Draco would be dropping their own special attack. So the whole thing about Amoongus is that it's very bulky, very hard to remove, and very easy to position, and I feel like Dragon Terra Yachi Berry helps you do that into this matchup specifically. And if you made it this far in the video, comment down below a mod that you're interested in, and I'll reply with an offensive and defensive Terra type plus berry combination that might work for it given its toolkit and typing. Thank you all for watching. You can all let me know if you enjoyed this informational style video by leaving a like. If it gets to 50 likes and you guys really seem to like it, then I'll go over and make some more examples of Terra and Resist Berry combinations. If not, I'll just go ahead with the next video. And the last thing I mentioned was that I was able to reach top 300 on Showdown with the Brute Bonnet team. I'm going to make a ranked battle video and a rental code with the team if the video reaches 25 likes, just to let me know that you're interested. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys. I'm going to be running in a tournament today with the Brute Bonnet team, so we'll see how that goes. And yeah, I appreciate you all for watching. Have an amazing day.